We have reports, unconfirmed reports, that say our next guest met with President Trump at the White House and took him to task for not focusing on his base. The author of the book, In Trump We Trust, her name is Ann Coulter, and she's with us now. First of all, Ann, did you meet with the president?
The one thing I'll confirm is that I would never say anything as hacky as, "You must focus on the base, sir."
I'm paraphrasing, you know that. I'm paraphrasing.
Did not tell the Washington Post that he needs to, quote, man up. It's like they have, you know, a hackometer where they take your quotes and put it through the total hack machine, and it comes out in something that if I ever did say, I wouldn't even have to deputize my friends. They would just shoot me.
Well, did you, in any way, shape or form, using any language, suggest to the president that he focus more on his base? Because I think he is focusing on his base. I mean, you saw that rally in Ohio the other night.
Oh, I love the rallies. I'm totally for the rallies. And that's part of what made Trump such a magnificent and really quite unusual candidate. The fact that he was running on issues that no other Republican, much less a Democrat, would touch. I mean, he had these 30,000-person focus groups that he spoke to every single day. He didn't hire pollsters. He didn't hire consultants. That's how he hears from... I mean, in a week, he'd hear directly from 1 million regular Americans. No other politician can do that.
I think that this idea of taxing rich people, that would be high-income earners, more than they're currently taxed, I think that's an appeal to his base. Granted, this is what the president was telling the Wall Street Journal. It's what Steve Bannon is talking about. This is for the base. The base doesn't care about taxing billionaires. They'd love to tax them some more. They want a middle-class tax cut, and if it's paid for by the rich, so be it. I think he's going right to his base with that one.
Yes, and also I'd say it's not the typical Democrat envy of the rich here. This is something Trump ran on, and no other candidate, Republican or Democrat, would ever run on it for president. And I'm sorry this is your audience, but it is unfair. This loophole that allows people who are engaging in you know, trading stocks for a living, hedge fund managers, to pay 15% on their income. I mean, this is something Warren Buffett always boasts about opposing, how he pays less, a lower rate, rather, than his secretary does. That is unfair, just on a matter of fairness. It isn't the usual, oh, we'll let the billionaires pay. No, hedge fund managers should be paying the same rate that you and I are.
I agree with that.
Sorry to your audience.
No. I think a lot of our audience is very... You talked about carried interest, and a lot of our audience absolutely agrees with that. Tax them at the same like everybody else does. Now, I'm just getting this coming in. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs says there will be no modifications to the military's transgender policy, regardless of yesterday's tweet from the president. The Joint Chiefs chair says the military will continue to, quote, treat all of his personnel with respect. You know, Ann, I think this is another example of a distraction. Take you back to yesterday. The Senate floor, they're debating health care, and up comes a tweet from the president that says no transgender in the military. So immediately, attention focuses to that and not the job creation in Wisconsin. Would you at least admit that the president sometimes gets ahead of himself, distracts from his agenda?
Actually, I thought it was I agree that it was a distraction. I thought it was a good distraction for something I wasn't very happy with the president over, and that was his, well, I won't characterize them, but his tweets about the Attorney General, the greatest member of the Trump administration. That was really getting his supporters and people who support his agenda down, besides being delusional and insane, blaming the Attorney General for things that President Trump himself was responsible for. At first, I thought it was a distraction from that. According to the Politico article today, if true, it's absolutely fantastic. According to the Politico article today, GOP leaders are opposing both not having taxpayers fund transgender operations for members of the military, and they are opposing any money for the wall. So in order to get the funding through for the wall, it was being held up by conservative, or I would have thought, you know, sane humans in the Senate who don't want taxpayers like you and me paying for these lengthy transgender operations, years of therapy. I mean, for Pete's sake, you can't get into the military. You used to not be able to get into the military. Who knows now? If you had asthma, psoriasis, attention deficit disorder, but we're going to bring in people with an extremely peculiar and rare mental illness. Great, and have the taxpayers pay for it. But both Trump's defense secretary and, as you say now, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but they're insisting that taxpayers fund transgender operations for people with a mental problem? Oh, come on. We're not going to have any ground wars. Knock this nonsense off. Trump gets to go out against absurd political correctness and get funding for his wall. So I loved those tweets.